Now, so let's go into the tragedy movie, which is a fantastic movie. It's called Flight, a 2012 movie. And as you can see right there at the bottom, Denzel Washington's performance is a triumph. And that is true. And I'll say this about people who are like complaining that, you got to see it to be it, or, the like diversity in Hollywood and stuff like that. It's like Denzel Washington came from a time back when there was a time when there was a meritocracy when it comes to being a good actor. And Denzel Washington has always been a good actor. All right. And, just putting somebody in a role because that they are, just because of their skin color and doesn't really take into account the skill of their acting ability. I think you're making a big mistake. I mean, some of my favoriteest movies Denzel Washington is in. Training Day. Holy cow. What a meaty character, that he got to play in that, playing that Alonzo guy. Yeah. What a meaty, what's a morally ambiguous character. And you need a fantastic actor to do a role like that. And this is that kind of role. Because Flight is about this pilot who is drinking all night, doing cocaine, and going and flying planes all over the country, staying in hotels, banging flight attendants, living that kind of life. Number one, that should make you concerned about the nature of the flying industry. But a situation happens when he was on a flight where they had a problem, malfunction or something like that. You end up like, you had to invert the bird and land her in an open field. I'm going to need to see some identification. Well, you don't believe a pilot? I don't believe you're a doctor. That's a very serious accusation. I'm crossing over into Always Sunny in Philadelphia because that's what it's based upon. It's like, and it was a crazy maneuver to do, first of all. And you kind of have to be a little loose. You got to have a couple drinks in you to try something like that. But he ended up saving a bunch of people. Few people died. And so because of that, an investigation gets started. And when he was in the hospital, they pulled his blood. And so he knows like right away, it's like, they're going to find the cocaine. They're going to find alcohol in my system. This is going to be a big mess. And eventually he's approached by his bosses and, the NTSB. And he's very forthcoming with his bosses about, I've been drinking. I've been snorting coke, And so there's like, we got to clean you up before this investigation for the NTSB. We're cleaning you up. And he tries and tries. And this, one of those things that happens in movies that never made any sense to me, because whenever there's a character who gives up drinking in a movie, there's always a scene where they're going through their house and they're picking up all the bottles and throwing it in a trash can or trash bag or something like that and taking it outside. And in this movie, and like in so many other movies, some character gives up drinking, like Denzel Washington's character in this movie, and they go around, they're pulling you're pulling the bottles out of the couch cushions, you're pulling bottles out of everywhere, out of drawers, but it's all different types of liquor. And you know what? That is just so not true. It would be like one kind of liquor. It would be, or like one type of beer cans, because he's also like throwing away like beer cans and stuff like that, all different brands. And so I wonder if the issue is that you cannot show the fact that a guy like this probably drank nothing but Maker's Mark and Maker's Mark only, because they didn't want like all these Maker Mark bottles to be in this scene where somebody quits drinking. You understand? Do you think brands was the problem? Yeah. Do you think brands don't want anyone to associate with that, so I wonder if that's kind of the issue, because that's not the case. It's like I knew one guy who quit smoking because he stopped buying Camels. It's like I started buying Marlboros and I just smoked less and less because they taste horrible. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it's a hilarious joke. And if but that's the point. It's like, people who are like addicts, they have a brand, But Denzel's performance in this always comes down to the very, like the third act. And I always think a movie that has a third act where a character reaches a moral breaking point, and then makes the right decision after making a series of wrong decisions, I always find that to be a very compelling way to tell a story because it shows a shift in a person's moral character. And I think that's a good thing. You know, right before this, you know, investigation, this board, he's staying in this hotel. He'd been dry for all this time. And he got into this other hotel room that had a bar, and he got drunk. They come in to get him for the investigation. And he's trashed, unable to move. So he tells him to call his friend, his coke dealer, who brings him over some coke, gets him back in the game, as they say. And he goes to this thing, and during the questioning, they show the flight attendants that died, and one of which is who was one of the flight attendants he was banging. And you know, it's kind of like it was kind of like shifting the blame from him to them in regards for the investigation. And he felt like he couldn't betray his friend's memory just to save his own ass. And I think that that's kind of an interesting, like, moral quandary that sometimes you may find yourself in if you're the kind of person who keeps telling drunken lies over and over again just to cover up the flaws of your character. And at some point, you don't want the burden of your sins to fall on anyone else. And it's kind of, like I said, it's just like Training Day. It's such a very morally ambiguous character, but at the third act, you get this moral turn where the guy does the right thing no matter what it costs him. And I always like a movie that does something like that. So that's Flight 2012, 10 of 13 stars. A little long. And that whole side thing with the addict lady, I don't know.